Every day, I sit down to tell a new story horror. This one's close to my heart. There's a train track that runs behind my grandmother's old farmhouse, one of those endless rust-colored lines that stretch into the horizon like veins in the land. When I was a boy, the trains would pass in the night, their whistles echoing across the cornfields, sounding like some tired spirit calling out in the dark. The tracks were off-limits. Grandma made it clear. "Don't you go walking those rails after dark, Henry," she'd say, her hands still dusted with flour from baking. "People disappear out there. The hollow tracks don't let everyone come back." Of course, being 12 and headstrong, I thought it was just her way of keeping me out of trouble. The stories sounded like nonsense, boogeyman tales meant to scare children. But even then, I noticed how the grown-ups avoided the subject when neighbors brought it up, how their voices would drop low, as though the tracks could hear them. One autumn evening, after the harvest festival, I tested it. My cousins dared me $5 to walk the hollow tracks after sundown. It seemed easy enough. The moon was out, round and sharp, and the fields glowed silver. The rails themselves shone like twin blades stretching into forever. At first, it was just a sound of crickets and the cool night breeze brushing the cornstalks. But then, about 100 yards in, I felt it. The rails hummed beneath my sneakers, even though no train light was anywhere on the horizon. A low vibration worked its way up through my feet, through my chest, into my skull, like something alive breathing deep under the ground. And then I heard them. Footsteps. Not mine. Not anyone else's. These were heavier, pacing alongside the tracks, just beyond the tree line. Every time I stopped, they stopped. When I started again, they matched me. I should have run, but I was 12, and pride kept me moving forward. That's when I saw the lantern. It swung gently in the distance, maybe 50 yards ahead, floating about shoulder height. No figure held it, just a dim, pale glow moving back and forth, swaying like it was searching for something. I called out, voice cracking, "Hello?" The lantern froze. Then it started moving toward me. Not floating, not swinging, charging. I ran so hard my lungs caught fire. The rails clanged under me, the vibration now a roar. Behind me, the footsteps thundered like a dozen men chasing at once. I didn't dare look back until I dove off the tracks into the weeds, rolling until the night air left my chest. When I opened my eyes, the lantern was gone. The footsteps were gone, but the rails were still humming. That was my first encounter with the hollow tracks. And it wasn't the last. I'm older now, a father even, and yet every time I visit that farmhouse, the hollow tracks whisper from behind the fields, daring me to come closer. People still vanish there. Hunters, drifters, once even a sheriff's deputy. Folks whisper about it in town. The lantern man, the lost conductor, the ghost train that never stops. Everyone has a name for it, but nobody has an answer. A few years ago, I made the mistake of walking those tracks again. It was late November, the air sharp as knives, and I'd been drinking more than I should have at the Legion Hall. I told myself it was just a walk to clear my head. But something in me, call it arrogance, call it unfinished business, wanted to see if the hollow tracks still held their power. They did. The moment my boots touched those rails, the humming began, and so did the lantern. It appeared farther down this time, a flicker in the mist, but I knew it was waiting for me. I told myself it was just swamp gas or headlights from some distant road, but my gut knew better. The footsteps started soon after, this time not in the woods, but right on the tracks behind me. I walked faster. The footsteps quickened. I broke into a run. They ran too, always at my heels, always just out of sight. My heart hammered like a train engine, the sound of steel on steel screaming beneath me. And then, clear as day, I heard the whistle. But no train came. Instead, the lantern rushed forward until it was only inches away, blinding white, burning my eyes. And in that light, I finally saw it. Not a man, not exactly. More like the outline of one, hollow as the name itself, his chest a cavern of shadow, his face nothing but smoke. He opened his mouth, and though no words came, I felt the meaning. "You shouldn't have come back." I don't remember falling, but I woke up in the ditch, shivering in the frost. My boots were on the rails, soles blackened as if they'd been burned. The lantern was gone. That night was the last time I set foot on the hollow tracks. And here's the truth of it. The part that eats at me, I think the tracks take people who don't respect them. The greedy, the prideful, the careless. I escaped only because I was young the first time, and lucky the second. But luck runs out. The lesson is simple, though most folks don't want to hear it. Not every road is meant to be walked, not every mystery solved. Curiosity can be a knife, and pride is a hand that grips it too tight. So when you find yourself drawn to the sound of rails humming in the dark, when you see a lantern swaying where no hand should hold it, turn back. Don't test it. Don't think you're stronger, braver, or smarter than the hollow tracks. Because some stories aren't meant to be lived twice. And some paths, once walked, never let you go. You'd think a man would learn his lesson after 2 brushes with death, but life is a way of testing whether you really listened the first time. For me, that test came last winter. Snow had blanketed the fields in white silence, the kind of silence that makes every sound ring louder than it should. I'd come back to the farmhouse to settle Grandma's estate. She'd passed a year before, and the place had sat empty, waiting for someone to close it down for good. It hurt, stepping inside that house without her voice calling from the kitchen, without the smell of biscuits warming in the oven. The walls seemed hollow, the floorboards colder. I went from room to room, boxing up what little was left. Old photographs, a stack of hymnals, the quilt she swore she'd finish but never did. And all the while, through the frostbitten windows, I could see them, those cursed rails cutting across the snow, just as dark and sharp as I remembered. I told myself I wouldn't go near them. Not this time. I was done with the hollow tracks. But temptation is patient. It waits for grief, for weakness, for a man to feel so hollow inside that is drawn to fill the emptiness with danger. That night, after I turned out the lights and laid down on Grandma's old sofa, I heard it. The whistle, soft at first, drifting through the snowstorm. Then louder, sharp, slicing through the night like a blade. I sat up, heart pounding, but there was no glow of an engine, no rumble of wheels. Just that long, mournful call. And then came the knock. Not at the door, at the window. 3 sharp raps against the glass, each one vibrating through the frame. I didn't move. My breath clouded in the cold air, and my skin prickled with the certainty that whatever was outside wasn't human. Slowly, against every shred of sense, I turned my head. There, through the frost, stood a figure holding a lantern. The same pale, swaying glow. Only this time, the figure had shape, a tall man in a long conductor's coat, kept shadowing his face. His other hand reached toward a glass, fingers stretched long, too long, tapping the pane again and again. I staggered back, nearly tripping over the sofa. But when I blinked, the window was empty. Only the storm howled outside. I told myself it was grief, stress, maybe even a dream. But when morning came, the truth stared me in the face. 3 perfect handprints on the glass, black as soot. That should have been enough to send me packing. But I stayed. That evening, as the sun bled red across the snow, I found myself standing by the back fence, eyes locked on the tracks. The lantern appeared again, this time not in the distance, but right there, swinging gently between the rails. I don't know what possessed me, but I climbed over the fence. Each step crunched through the snow, the air colder with every breath. The lantern didn't move. It just waited. When I reached it, I saw the truth. The lantern wasn't held by any hand. It grew out of the shadow itself, hovering above a great hollow shape, a man-shaped void with eyes like burning coals. Its coat wasn't fabric, but smoke and ash swirling in the winter air. And when it opened its mouth, I heard them. Voices. Dozens. Hundreds. Men, women, children, all screaming, all begging, their words overlapping in a torrent of pain. Faces flickered in the smoke. Faces I'd seen on missing posters in the general store over the years. The hollow tracks had taken them. And now, it wanted me. I fell to my knees, clutching the frozen rail to steady myself. The metal burned like fire even through my gloves. The lantern leaned close, its light searing, and in that blinding glow, I heard a single voice rise above the rest. Stay. It wasn't a command. It was an invitation. A promise. If I stepped fully onto the rails, if I gave myself over, the hollowness inside me, the grief, the loss, the loneliness, would be filled. I'd never feel empty again. For a moment, God help me, I wanted it. But then I thought of Grandma, how she'd warned me all those years ago, how she kept us away from the tracks, not out of superstition, but out of love. She'd known the price of curiosity, the cost of pride, and I heard her voice clear as day. Henry, some paths aren't yours to walk. With every ounce of strength left in me, I tore my hand from the rail and stumbled backward, away from the lantern, away from that endless void of voices. The light flared one last time, bright enough to blind, then collapsed into nothing. The tracks lay quiet before me. I staggered back to the farmhouse, shaking, sick, my skin blistered where the frozen steel had burned me. And that night, I made a choice. I sold the place. I don't go back anymore. Not to the farmhouse, not to the hollow tracks. Whatever claims that stretch of land can keep it. I want no part of it. But I tell this story for a reason. The hollow tracks aren't just rails in the date. They are temptation itself. They lure you with curiosity, with pride, with grief. They promise answers, and comfort, and release, but all they give is emptiness. And if you let them, they'll hollow you out too. So if you ever hear a whistle in the night where no train runs, or see a lantern swaying where no hand should hold it, turn back. Leave it be, because the hollow tracks are always waiting, and they are patient. I thought I was finished with the hollow tracks. Selling Grandma's farmhouse should have been the end of it. I packed up, moved on, built a quiet life 100 miles away. For years, I tried to believe that those rails belonged to the past, that the lantern and its hollow conductor had no reason to follow me. But some stories don't let you go. It started with the dreams. At first, they came once in a while, me walking along those same rails, hearing the whistle, seeing the lantern in the fog. But the longer I ignored them, the more they came. Every night, without fail, I found myself back on those tracks, the light chasing me, the footsteps never far behind. One night, the dream went further. I woke in my own bed to find soot on my hands, black streaks across the sheets. Another morning, I found gravel, railroad gravel, scattered across my bedroom floor. I hadn't been sleepwalking. I knew where I'd been. And that's when I realized the hollow tracks weren't bound to that farm. They weren't bound to one stretch of rail. They lived in me now. They'd been waiting, patient as ever, for me to grow weak again. And then my daughter saw it. She's 6, bright-eyed, all curiosity and laughter, with the same stubborn streak I had at her age. One night, as I tucked her in, she looked past me the darkened hallway and said, "Daddy, why does that man keep swinging his lantern?" My blood ran cold. I didn't tell her the truth, of course. I smiled, kissed her forehead, told her there was no man, just shadows playing tricks. But when I turned off her light and closed the door, I saw it too. At the far end of the hall, a faint glow swaying back and forth, as if waiting. The hollow tracks weren't just after me anymore. They were after my bloodline. That was the night I stopped running. I couldn't afford to. I went to the attic and dug through boxes until I found Grandma's old Bible. She wasn't a preacher, but she believed in things beyond our world. Inside the back cover, pressed flat and brittle, I found a page of notes in her hand. The lantern takes the proud. The rails take the restless. To protect your own, you must break the line. Break the line. The word stuck with me. I didn't know what they meant exactly, but I knew one thing. The hollow tracks were a line, endless and unbroken, stretching into forever. If I could disrupt that line, burn it, cut it, tear it apart, maybe I could end this curse. So I went back. It was a dead of night, a freezing wind slicing across the fields as I drove up to the farmhouse for the last time. I parked by the fence, headlights off, carrying a can of kerosene and a sledgehammer. My hands shook, not just from the cold, but from the weight of what I was about to do. The tracks glistened under the moonlight, black against the snow. They hummed the moment I stepped close, that deep, bone-rattling vibration that said, "We know you've returned." The lantern appeared within seconds. Not far this time, but right there in the center of the rails, its glow spilling across the snow. The conductor followed, tall and hollow, smoke swirling where flesh should have been. I raised the sledgehammer. He didn't move. He just watched, waiting, daring me. With a cry that tore my throat raw, I swung the hammer down. Sparks flew. The steel rang like a bell, the vibration knocking me to my knees. The lantern flickered, dimming for a moment. I struck again, and again. Each blow sent cracks spiting through the frozen ground, each strike pulling screams from conductor's hollow chest. The voices of the lost howled all around me, a storm of agony and rage. Finally, with one last swing, the rail bent, buckling inward, a piece of steel broken from its endless line. The lantern shattered. The conductor wailed, his body unraveling into smoke, into ash, into nothing. And then there was silence. I collapsed in the snow, chest heaving, tears burning hot against the cold air. For the first time in my life, the hollow tracks lay quiet. But here's the part that haunts me still. As I staggered back to my truck, I looked once more at the rails. And though the break was real, though the steel lay twisted and ruined, the track shimmered faintly in the moonlight and healed. The line closed again, unbroken, endless. The hollow tracks cannot be destroyed. Not by fire, not by steel, not by willpower or prayer. But they can be resisted. I learned then what Grandma already knew. You don't defeat the hollow tracks. You survive them. You teach your children to turn away when they hear the whistle, to close the curtains when they see the lantern. You remind them that curiosity and pride are teeth waiting to bite, and that some doors, once opened, never shut again. So now I live with it. The dreams still come. The footsteps still follow me at times, and sometimes I see that lantern swinging in the corner of my eye. But I keep my door close. I keep my faith closer. And I tell this story, not because it saves me, but because maybe, just maybe, it'll save someone else. Because one truth remains, clear as steel under the moonlight. The hollow tracks are always waiting. And if you don't respect them, they'll hollow you out too.